He will be talking about web development. This is a great chance to get insight into how modern web development works in the real world and what skills actually matter. I will not stretch anymore. Let's get started. Make sure to stay till the end. Please welcome Saurabh.
Hello. Hi, Rajiv. So it's good to connect with
Hello.
you all. Am I audible?
Yes.
Great. So if I say a brief about myself, so I am an alumni of Naroda. So I am 2015 pass out batch, and also I'm from electrical background. So uh, I have gone through different companies. I mean, I started with Cognizant, then with PicsArt, then Capgemini, then I joined PicsArt Rakuten, and then right now I'm with Microsoft as a front-end developer here. So I have mostly experience in uh, both the startup world as well as well-known MNCs as well. So if I say about today's goal, so mostly we will just walk through not in depth, but walk through of like how web development works at first. So in there you need to know like for having any task for the web development or any of the engineering fields, you need to know three business things like what are your goals and what are your requirements. So from the goal perspective, you need to know like what's the business objective, like uh, what the problem you are solving, and it might be a very small problem as well. Like say for instance, like there is a app like Splitwise, which is mainly what is it? Mainly a arithmetic calculation. You need to do various arithmetic calculation to split your expenses. So it's not a huge app, like not a heavy app, but it's a very profitable one as well as a very what is it? Uh, a one that solves your problem. So just to be clear, like your app shouldn't be a technically complex thing. It should be basically to solve the user's purpose. So so that's the reason you need to know first. So in this engineering world, you need to know first like what are you solving and who are you solving for. So you need not need to write a huge complex code. Your code should be simple. What I mean by simple, like if any developer other than you comes and works on your code, they should understand it quickly. They shouldn't take any like lesser they investigate, your work will be more appreciated there. So basically, what we say in our world is like less is more for us. The reason being, say for instance, you have a very complex app, and the developer who came or the group of developers who came, they might not understand it well, and they will ask, okay, let's replace the whole code base. So basically, your work is done. Your work, whatever you have contributed, your work is gone. So that's the main objective, like who are you solving for and what are you solving, and make it as simple as possible. Just make sure like what I mean, more simpler you write, okay, it gives you like how good you as a developer. And next thing is the scope of your work, like what are the things you are going to solve. Say for instance, one is the uh, your UI should be appealing to the user. I will come back like why I'm saying appealing. The reason being, we in this generation has a very small or very short uh, concentration focus. So if your app or whatever the task you are doing doesn't catch uh, the user in like 1 minute or 2 minutes, your app is not even useful. So that is one thing. Like it should be basically gives a user a feel like what they are trying to solve. And another one is basically this is from the performance perspective. Like it shouldn't take a huge time to load. So that's where the DSA part comes in. So that's the reason the DSA gives the importance comes in. And the next one is the accessibility. What I mean by accessibility is your app accessible to a vast group of people? That means, say for instance, like in Excel or in Words, whatever you work on, many people doesn't use mouse, right? So you just press tap and okay, you just switches from one section to another section that way. So basically, in that perspective, I mean accessibility, and also by accessibility, I also mean like uh, say for instance, a person with disability, if they also are able to access. So those are basically the basic points you need to sort it out, like business objective, features, performance, accessibility. Now coming to the tech stack, like so this is where most of the people focuses, right? Like what tech stack should we use? Is React? Should we use React? Should we use Next.js? Should we use some Svelte? So or even PHP? So see one from one thing, like your goal is to cater to the use to the group of people or group of users there on the market. It doesn't matter like what you are starting with. If you are starting with something right now, then okay, go with the latest tech stack, which is basically search, like which is basically more has more job market or something like that. So on that way, I will say like React has a very, I mean, okay, before starting with even React, like what you need to know JavaScript first. That's a that's a basic requirement. Like right now, the web development is not only JavaScript, HTML, CSS, but those will always be the best for HTML for any kind of web development. So you need to know HTML first. Start with HTML. You feel like okay, I'm seeing a boarding website now. Add colors to it. Add skeleton to it. So HTML is basically a skeleton, and CSS gives you the skin color or something like that. Or basically, if I talk from a card perspective, so basically HTML gives you the card skeleton, painting, and other else like the headlights, everything are basically CSS. And now comes to the functionality, like what it will do. So the machines, everything. So that is basically the JavaScript. So these are the core things that will be required for any front end tasks. So go with that first. Make your basic skill so strong that you can basically each and every bit, not each and every bit, but the main important parts of JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Like what are semantic tags? uh, so something like that. Now for CSS, so basically, if you are new, I will suggest go with React. It has a very good job opportunity. Uh, is and basically there are like different things like should we go with React, should we go with Next.js? That basically gives you the performance like what you want to do. Is it a server side rendering or is it uh, a client side rendering? So I won't go much in depth right now. I will go on this later. Now, once the tech stack is done, so see, in many cases, we find like, okay, front end is best, back end is best. So that doesn't work. Uh, the thing is like back end and front end goes hand in hand. So, so if you have basically back end has all the knowledges, like do all the business logics. Sometimes right now there are many ways like front end also have those logics, but I will say most of the data, if it's a huge amount of data, you can't keep it in front end. So you need a backend help there. So start for backend, you can start if you have a JavaScript background, then start with Node, Express, or if you know Python, go with Django for Java, it's Spring Boot, etc. So for choosing the tech stack of web development, it's basically front end, backend, database, and API. In this case, like there are different ways of API. One is REST API, where which is normal API, and if it's a messaging app, you need to have a socket. So for that, you can use either GraphQL or Socket.io, and there are many Azure alternatives to those as well. And for data fetching or for data storing, you have different kind of databases. So go with SQL if you are good with that, or but you need to know like what you want to. If it's a small app, you can have it in and NoSQL database. Not smaller, I will say if it doesn't have that much complex business logic or that much data fetching, then go with NoSQL database like MongoDB, or you can use SQL as well there if you have a good knowledge on it. So from the tech stack perspective, I will say uh, there are there are four pillars of it: front end, back end, database, and APIs there. So that is so okay. I just need to know, like, are you able to sync with me? Like, do you have this knowledge, just like how front and back end database APIs work, or you want me to get a deep dive on it? Okay. Oh, got it. Okay, then that's great. Now let me uh, get more in depth. So right now I'm not getting into more depth, but yeah, basic works. You should have, I mean, at least the basic knowledge, like how all those things are connected. Now, the thing is, okay, you are done with the development, you are done with everything. Now you need to have your code at some place, right? Because local host, I mean, if you know, so we generally for development we have it in localhost, but you can't give someone like, okay, take my localhost 3000 or 5000 and you just work. So that doesn't work, right? So for that you need to have your code not in your local, but you need to have it at some place. So that's where you have the version control in Git. Uh, there are many alternatives like GitLab, GitHub, but those are basically the version controlling. What this version control means is like y- you keep your app, okay. Now next day you are doing something, and you got to understand like, okay, whatever I have done, it's not correct. So you need to undo your task, right? If you have a version control and you can't, so I think we every all have done this way, like folder A having okay version v1 now, and we kept another folder like version v2, v2.2, that way. So instead of having it in your local like that way, go with Git. So what skin demo you want? Okay, Git. I will create a PowerPoint and share with you later. Will that work? Okay. Okay. So I'm just giving you an overall idea, like how web development works right now, uh, and just an outstanding overview, so that when we get deeper into it, uh, you can get knowledge of. Okay, I will summarize later, and I can give you a PowerPoint later. So I think that will work for you. Okay. So till now, whatever we have discussed is one about I will say what are your goals basically. Second one is basically the tech stack you need to choose. In tech stack, there are basically front end, backend, and uh, DB database, and basically the API to connect each other. And the another one, which is basically the development workflow. It's basically the uh, Git, and in along with that, you can use like GitHub or GitLab. So if you have any question till now, let me know. I will then deep dive in each of these sections then. Okay. Okay, I will come to the DSA later part, in the later part of it. I think we can be more interactive here rather than, it's just basically chit chat session. So we can be more interactive. I think that will help both of us in this case. So no need to worry like if it's a dumb question or anything. So even I will now ask dumb questions, and that's the way I learned uh, till now. Okay, and uh, other than now, I will come to the code quality part. Like before starting any project, what you need to do? First, you need to have a wireframe, like how your website will look like. That just draw it on a paper or something like draw IO. You should have a wireframe, like what you are going to do now. Then choose your version control. Generally, it will be Git because that's most widely used. And then another thing that comes in is basically the uh, code for the code quality. For one is basically linting, one is basically testing. So what does linting and testing means? So linting is, say for instance, like you are working in a group. which will most obviously most of the cases. So in there, y- okay, should I know all backend data tech stacks if I'm going for backend engineering? Okay. I mean, if I only know about Node for now, will it work? And I will learn after. Yeah, see, uh, whatever the tech stack you choose, all right. So you need not to know everything. Even nobody can say like I know everything of front end or I know everything of backend. You just need to get started with it, and you should. I mean, whatever you know, you should know the basics clearly. So I had taken interviews. Most of the cases, I found like people have issues with the basics, and in most of the companies, they will mostly test your basic part. Like if you are working about Node, like how the threading works. So that's basically the concurrency how it works there. So that's a basic part of it. Like what are the mm, wave UIs there? Say for instance, is a timeout part of Node, or even if say timeout is a part of Node, then how can we say it in the browser in the front end as well? So those things and how it works, how promise works. So you need to know all those things. You wouldn't, so you need not to know every tech stack. Okay. So if you start with Node, you should know Node very well, like how to create an API with it, how all the APIs got connected, how the concurrency works. Even the concurrency is very a deep model. So it's fine if you don't know concurrency part of it, but how promise works and what is async, what is synchronous code, what is asynchronous code. Uh, so if someone asks you like if Node.js works synchronously or asynchronously, you should know. Because of the reason is JavaScript itself is a synchronous code. So Node.js has something extra for which it can manage the asynchronous codes as well. So you need to know how the Node.js works on the V8 engine. I think I cleared your query, right? Okay. So what I was talking about was basically the linking one. So in many places you will find like you are working in a group and everybody's settings might be different. Say for instance, you keep uh, four gaps for each indentation, and someone other's indentation style is different. So you need for your code should have a unified way, like how it's working. So in that way, you need something linked, like ESLint, Prettier, like that. And one thing you need to know is basically the optimization. The reason I say optimization is if you are working on the front end or even the back end, you need to know how to optimize your code. The reason being, if your website takes more than a second to load, what I load mean is the fast loading. That means user is not getting a blank screen. It might have something written over it, but uh, the styles might not be there at that point of time. But user is able to read anything, so they will get an understanding. Okay, the website is loading. Let me give them some time. So yes, the skeleton loading, which right now we have shimmering things there. But okay, just say for instance, if you open LinkedIn, you will see like okay, something is loading. That shimmering things happen. So it gives you a skeleton like okay, this is the way it will look like. But so if it just shows because right now if it shows that loading cursor every time, user, okay, it's very late. I mean, it's loading very slow. But when you are using shimmering, it's like, okay, I am getting a skeleton, but it might take some more time. So that's the reason user wants something on the screen in a second. So whatever we do in, I mean, whatever the optimization we do in the front end, it's mostly in microseconds thing. Like we used to check how much microsecond it takes, millisecond it takes to load a string. Your first load shouldn't be more than a second. Yeah. So that's where the performance comes in. So if you know React, I mean, if anyone knows React, they will find like React has something called re-rendering issue. Like you might be writing something with use effect, and it's getting generated each and every seconds or something like that. So you need to fix those things, like any kind of re-rendering or any issues with the loading part, so that your uh, so in this way there is another task which is called the lazy loading as well. What lazy loading does is like uh, okay, so there are many performance things. One is the lazy loading. What it does, it doesn't load all the code at the same time. So if you enter into a certain page or a certain route, then only it loads your page. So that's where the lazy loading comes in. So so in this way, what happens, like whatever the bundle you create, it's not a very large bundle. It generally it should be in certain MBs, like 4 5 MBs like that, so that it will load very quick, and then the other part of your code keeps on coming. That is one thing. And another one you will see in LinkedIn as well as in Facebook, which is called the infinite scrolling. So the amount you scroll, you won't get all the data at the same time. You will see like your profile might be loading, whereas the feed is getting generated, and might be there are 2 3 LinkedIn, I mean Facebook or LinkedIn feeds getting loaded, and once you scroll down, you have more feeds going on or getting loaded. So that is basically the optimization things. Like I won't show you everything at the same time. I will show you one by one once user asks for it. In this way, what happens is user, see, one thing you need to understand is like whatever the user using your website, they might be using a 2G, uh, might be using some 2G network as well, 2G or 3G network as well. They might be using on the phone. So it's your website is, if it's for a large amount of users, then their website should have a mobile compatibility as well. See, for the SEO part, can you tell me something about increase SEO? Okay, for SEO part, there are certain tools, and another one which increases the SEO is basically the semantic tags. So in I have seen codes where people use only div and div everywhere, be it the nav bar, be it the main content, be it the sidebar, everything. So for that one, you should have a semantic tag. Like you should have a description for your website, so that whenever you load your or you should have a metadata there. So whenever you load it or ask Google for it, what Google does is it scrolls the data. Right. So once they get a description, I mean, and also the tags as well, like what are the tags you are using in your website. So that way you can increase the SEO. And another one, I mean, uh, there is this Next.js, which by default does many SEO things internally. So so for SEO from the development perspective first. So from the development perspective, you should use the semantic tags there. Semantic HTML tags. That's one of the main things you need to use to increase your SEO. Else Google just drops it from the search box. So if your website doesn't get in the first search, then most of the time it's taken for waiting, because uh, most of the users don't even go to the next page for Google. So that's the reason. From the development perspective, from this perspective, I will say go with the semantic tags first. Go with the metadata, whatever in the HTML skeleton. Then there is a whole lot of thing that will be a whole another session to take it. Uh, did you understand, Arun? Yeah. Okay. That's basically I'm asking about the basic parts as well. So, okay. Okay. So, that is basically uh, a very basic overview of web development. Along with that, there is another thing which is bundler. Uh, I won't go in depth on that because that is basically a huge part on. I mean, huge part in means like in our company as well. There are architects who work on the bundlers to basically reduce it time to time. So yes, like Byte, like uh, there is TurboPack for Next.js, there is Webpack. So basically, for this, they give you an easy to use things. But if your app is, say, for instance, like 2 GB, 3 GB of worth of code, so it happens. Like it might many cases, you will see monolithic code there. So in that cases, you need to have the custom bundler to reduce your loading time, or to reduce your development as well. Okay, so that's basically a very what I say is Uber level overview. I from the web development perspective, but I will ask like guys, like what are the things you want uh, me to discuss more, or if you want anything uh, that will help, that the problem you are facing, or any issues, or for the future development, like for say finance placement purpose or anything, if you want any guidance, or if you want me to talk on those.
Could you discuss more about what how we should be preparing for interviews of the top companies?
Okay, so one thing I will say, like uh, uh don't select companies this way, like I will only go for these top companies or certain things, because focus on your basics, and you can get a chance. So you will find rejections on, and a lot of rejection on your way. But one thing I will suggest, like don't go or don't prepare in a way like I will go for the top companies. So these are the roadmap for the top companies. So I will suggest work on your basics. So first is like uh, you need to know like uh, If I ask from the, if I say from the uh, front end perspective, go with React. So start with basically HTML, CSS, JavaScript. JavaScript. So your interview, I mean, 50 to 60% of your interview will only be on JavaScript, because people know like where they fail. So if your basics are clear, you can nail any interview there. Okay. So learn JavaScript from the core basics. That is one thing. Uh, your resume should have the work you have done. That means try not to fake it, because uh, and make the resume as crisp as possible, like a one pager, not more than that. And okay, if I go with like how your preparation will be, then uh, if you know like how JavaScript works, go with it. Know the semantic tags, because whenever uh, okay, uh, know the semantic tags. So one thing is, interviewer will ask you to write code. There you shouldn't write deep everywhere. If you're, say for instance, they are asking you to create a nav bar. Okay, use the nav semantic tag there available. For the sidebar, use aside. So use the semantic tags. Do the CSS. So CSS is also a very like, for CSS, go with very basic things like flexbox, grid. Uh, Mainly these two. If you can learn this, you will like, you are like 50% or basically more than 50% ready for the interview from the CSS perspective. Now go with the Java. If you're done with this, then go with React. And also, in many interviews, I found interviewer ask about the Git. So know the Git basic. You should have a basic Git knowledge. Like if you have any conflict, how will you resolve it? How will you push, or how will you amend certain code? So that is one thing. Rajib, do you have? I mean, is it clear, or you want some more details on it?
Yes, yes, it is clear. I was also wondering that if you
Mhm.
could means tell a little about some good resources that we could follow for these preparations, or maybe something that you followed that lead you to where you are now.
Okay, okay. So see, whenever you are developing, if you, I will ask you to go with the MDN docs. So if you know MDN docs, let me give you a link of it. So say for instance, you want anything related to HTML, search for HTML semantic tags, MDN. So there is basically what I say, the Bible of us, Bible for it. So that is one thing. Just let me- And if you want any YouTube resources, so okay, for JavaScript, I will ask, go with Access. He has a very great, I mean, he has great tutorial. And another one is basically the system design. That is very much required in this current time. So I won't suggest a lot of things. There are many tutorials there, but for that I will go with Chirag's front end interview system design. So
Okay, understood.
for backend, I generally, I mean, I'm not a champion backend. Basically, I have done just a little bit of it. So for backend, uh, I will suggest this. Forgot his name. Oh, another one is basically free code camp. That is also I used earlier. So basically, these are, I mean, three, four channels that find like, okay, if you go through it, you will nail most of the interview from the front end perspective. So I didn't have internship. As I said, like, I am from the electrical background. So, well, okay. So I started with electrical engineering. So I didn't have internship there. So, and also in Cognizant, I joined as a mainframe developer. So I think none of that mental knowledge is anyway useful for the whole journey. But if you ask me like how you crack to your, I mean, right now how the internship or how the interview works, I will suggest like the same thing. If you are focusing on Java, JavaScript, go with basics, then go with DSA. You need to know DSA a lot at this point of time. By DSA, I mean like start with strings, start with arrays. Uh, I suggest only one channel for DSM. I mean, I find it too useful. That is uh, Strivers. I mean, Raj Vikram with this channel. Uh, I think take you forward. Yeah. So that channel, I mean, that is more than enough. That is more than enough. I don't feel you need anything other than that channel. So you can crack any internship or any DSA round, even for Google, Facebook with that one. Okay, is it necessary for someone focusing on backend to know frontend well? No, you should have a basic knowledge, like how it works. Like basic knowledge, I mean, is how backend connects with the DB, how backend connects with the database. So, or how backend creates the API. So that's basically the basic things. You know, or I mean, it's basically better to know, but if you don't know it, that's fine. But for you, I mean, who are basically will be starting your journey, I will say you don't need to focus on backend at this point of time. Focus purely on front end right now. Or if you are working on backend, focus purely on backend right now and don't juggle with too many tech stack. I will say take any one tech stack and start with it. And also one thing, uh, I'm not sure if anybody have Udemy. I mean, anybody use Udemy? So there are one channel, uh, like Maximilian Schwarzmuller. I think his fronting posts are great. Let me just that link. I mean, I pasted a link for Udemy. So basically, those are paid one, but I have gone through this Node.js and React. So those are really great. And okay, one thing what I found in um, the current developers, or I mean, who are going to live into the future, like they use ChatGPT a lot. So what it's okay. You can use AI. I mean, it's basically encouraged to use AI in your work, but AI shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't let AI think, or you shouldn't stop your thinking and ask AI, okay, create a whole website for me, or create a whole. Uh, yes, that vibe coding. I mean, they create everything for me. So you should think. Right now, I will suggest when in your college days, uh, try using AI to get information, but not use AI for development, because what happens is like you can develop anything. You can develop anything with AI, but when there is basically mostly our work is like 30% coding, 30% coding, 10-20% meeting, and then most of the part is debugging. So you work on the existing codes. If you only do vibe coding or ask AI to do things, then it's very hard to debug. I mean, I feel I found people very hard. I face very hard times when they are asked to debug things. So that's the reason I will request you. I mean, try to think yourself. Try to code without the help of ChatGPT. I mean, the basic part. I mean, once you are, like I am okay, I can do this, or I'm fluent in it. Then it's better. You can after that you can code anything with ChatGPT or Copilot, but don't start your journey with them. That's that's one thing I will suggest for each and every guy, every one of you. And okay, one thing is okay, many I found most of the questions regarding like how to prepare on DSA, and uh, how I mean I feel issues with DSA. So one thing I will suggest, like don't treat DSA as I mean as a blocker. Okay, DSA is just, you should increase your thinking capability. That's the only work uh, DSA does. So in many cases, I found people asking like, okay, I'm from the front end, so why should I go through DSA? So in this case, I will give you an understanding. Okay, say for instance, everyone work with VS. And does anyone know what is VS Code, or any coding framework you have used? Okay, yeah. So basically, in VS Code or any code tool, you have the folder. You can see like how your folder pattern is there. You add things, you delete things. You have folder inside. You have files. Now, while you try to search for a specific file or specific word as well, how that search out happens, like, so that is basically a front-end tool happening. So for that search, you okay, for that search you don't need to do something like, okay, the extra algorithm or anything like that, but you should have a basic understanding of DSA for that. Else what you will do is like, okay, I will go for each and every file, each and every folder, and then try to grab a specific word. So that's the reason so that's the importance of DSA in front end. I
Sir,
haven't worked. Sorry.
sir,
So, oh, yeah, I haven't used Vim. I think I basically I mean, face issues with Vim, but
please
you
select.
in nowhere, in no company, they will force you to use a specific code editor. You can code on anything as long as you are following their coding standard. But in most of my career, uh, I find most places VS Code and in some places JetBrain. So JetBrain is basically expensive one. It's a paid one, uh, so that's the reason I will go with VS Code mostly. How to practice? Pramendo, I didn't get your question correct. Can you let me know what you want to say, like how to practice what I have learned? So you mean on the revision part? Okay. So for see in coding, it's basically your muscle memory. Okay. So you don't need to. Okay. One thing is like you don't need to. I mean, to remember each and everything. Okay, but you need to know like how it works, where to use it. So if you ask me like how to practice, I will say other than going through tutorials. So what I used to do is like whenever I have a tutorial or I have gone through some tutorials, I try to build a small project. So the way I started is like uh, when I tried my hands on with HTML, I created something like my portfolio website. Uh, After that, I learned CSS. So then I felt okay, the my portfolio website looks too bad. I updated it with CSS. Now once it's done, so your portfolio is done. Now I had a to-do list. So you learn whatever you learn each and every day. You just try to implement it that day and try to implement it in that week. That's the only way you can practice. Once you stop practicing or if you just go over the tutorials, it won't help anyway, because while you are watching the tutorials it will look like okay, everything is easy, but once you try start coding it, you will find several issues. So same happens with DSM. Like if you don't practice hard, then you will be forgetting things. Like for DSI, I will suggest in your phase, I will suggest like make it a norm, like whatever it is, practice two DSA problem, one hard, one medium every day, or two easy, one medium every day. That the way it will make it easy when you are going for an interview. And another thing I will suggest is like as per the job market, what I have faced, like you won't get much time before any interview. So say for instance, for me it happened like I get an interview call today and it will be happening in next 2 days or tomorrow as well. So you need to be that way prepared. Make yourself prepared, uh, not while you starting or searching for internship or interviews. I will say search on after basically prepare yourself great and then start searching. What is selected? Okay, so is it from the front end perspective, Koja? Okay, so selector is basically whatever you select on a web page, nothing else. Whatever gives you a certain, identifies a certain part in the web page. Okay, so that means, say for instance, you want to select. Uh, okay, you want to select your uh, feed. So every LinkedIn feed has a specific number, or basically, what you say is it comes in one by one. like it comes one by one. So you should, it means like first go with whatever it is, like uh, find a specific class name or a ID and try to check like whether it selects or not. So anything uh, that points out a specific part in the web page, that is a selector. So do the big companies use the same database like MongoDB? Whatever the company it is, there might be variations. Okay, like be it MongoDB, be it, so there are two things. One is SQL, one is no SQL. So the uh, uh, so it might be something like Azure for Amazon people. It will be some AWS service, but in the, I mean, at the end, is basically mostly the same syntax. I mean, 90% the same syntax. One or two you need to find from the docs. How to learn DSA from docs or YouTube tutorials? Uh, See, for me, what happened is like I am not good at study, so I prefer YouTube tutorials and then practice it. After you, I mean, the way I do is like I learn anything, I practice it the very next hour, or I try to practice it in that day only, and keep on practicing at least once in that whole week. Which channel do I follow? Okay, the only one, I think, Take You Forward. I think that is the only channel I have checked for TSM. I suggest, like, I mean, I don't hop in much on the DSA tutorials on every place. I just I see like most of the tutorials are there in Stivers one, so I go with that only. Any questions or any queries or anything you want to know?
I think all the doubt is clear.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I think I got two queries. One is like how to get into a company for internship, and another in is how to be consistent. Okay. So consistency, I said like practice it every day. I mean, make it a norm. Like I should invest 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever it is, like 1 hour for DSA, 2 hours for DSA, and 1 hour for any kind of project. Try to create as much of projects as possible, be it a very small project or be it a huge project. But I will suggest like try to code every day, because what I felt is like if I stop coding for a week, I forgot so many things. So basically, I don't have any kind of that kind of time management. So when I make it a norm only, like at least 1 or 2 hours, I will invest only for my personal coding, whatever, I mean, whatever it be. And how to get into an internship? Start with your basics. The only thing is start with your basics. Like you need to be too good in basics. The reason being, you don't have any experience, right? You don't have any experience at this point of time. So only thing you know is DSA and the project you are working on. So right now, most of the company will focus on the DSA part. So learn it as much as possible, or you shouldn't. I mean, it's not like doing a doing a uh, in number of query questions. Like some people used to say, like I do 100 late code or 200 late code. It doesn't work that way. You should learn different kinds of uh, queries or kinds of questions. Like what are the different questions can be there, or patterns basically. I mean, you should learn different patterns and try using it. That is one thing. And next one is you should know your project. Whatever the project you have done, you should know it well. Because if you fake, I mean, say for instance, you are faking like I have done it, but you haven't done it there. Interview can understand it. I think in 3 4 questions. So learn whatever the projects you do, you should know it very well. And DSA is obviously the first hurdle you are basically crossing. Any other queries?
Like you said that you are from the electrical background, there are many
Mhm,
students who are not from the CS background. So
mhm.
like coding is a very obsolete thing in this core branches. So how would you say that we from the core branches will should balance this coding and our core perspective, like prospect?
Okay, so from this perspective, I will say like I mean after college, you need to find some time to code daily. That's the only way possible. So uh, the thing happened. I mean, I shouldn't ask anyone to hamper your life. Like say for instance, sleeping 2 3 hours and do everything, but that will hamper your life. But what I did is like I am not from electrical and not from front end as well in the beginning. So I started front end, I think, after 4 years. I was with Menfin. So after office every day, like I used to reach home, I think at 9 or 9:30 in the evening, and we'll go for office at around 7:30. So my routine was like I should learn everything from 11 to 1, like from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. and then practice those. So I mean, there is no shortcut other than practice. That I said. So I think yeah, learn as much as possible uh in your coding days there. And also right now there are so many YouTube channels, right? You can go there and search anything and learn from it. So why not use those resources? I think in 2015 I don't have. I mean, we don't have so many YouTube channels then. So I think right now there are so many YouTube channels. Just pick any channel which you find useful and then start learning, or go go with any kind of tutorials or the docs from it. So one doc I follow mostly is the MTN docs, where I get so many things like be it HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I got everything from there. So that is one way. Like you need to practice and make it a habit. Like code at least for coding and tutorials, you should at least invest 2 3 hours every day.
Understood.
Any queries? Any more queries? Okay. After learning JS, which next to learn? Okay. So it should work this way: HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript. Choose a framework like React, Svelte, Vue, anything. I will suggest. I have learned React, so with React, then go with get a deep understanding of React. That means the bundler, the how the bundler works, uh, how React, how these async things happen, how you do a web call, and then there are various React libraries you need to do. One is the state management library, which is context or the stand or React query or React toolkit. So those things you need to learn, and then I think with this you are basically 60% ready uh, with your front end journey or for the Java or for the JavaScript journey. I mean,
I think everyone's doubt is clear. Thank you very much, Saurabh, for this amazing session.
thanks, Rajiv. Thanks, everyone.
It was really insightful. It was amazing.
Thanks. I think let's drop them.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Dada.